It is already 10:03, 8:33 p.m. for India participants. So let us begin the session. We have all our participants and we are all set to start it. So hi everyone, thanks for joining in and welcome to the session. A warm welcome to our esteemed guests, our panelists for today's session. We are honored to have with us Sandeep Khemani, Solution Consulting Lead from Google Cloud, Manjusha Gokhale, Director of Engineering Rackspace, Kevin Surace, Chairman and CTO Upfront. We also have with us our two Tech Mahindra leaders, Sampath Saagi, Senior Vice President and Head High Tech and Manufacturing, Anjali Chhabra Nandwani, Vice President and Head Digital Assurance Services Americas. So all of you, please accept our warm welcome and thank you for being with us. Before we start the session, a quick announcement for the participants. We are recording the session, and if time permits, I am hoping we will definitely have time. We will take a few questions during last 10 minutes. You are welcome to type your question during the session in the chat box. We will take up the question, as I said, during last 10 minutes. Now, without wasting time, let us begin the session, requesting Sampath to start the session with his opening remarks, please, and setting the context.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you so much for taking time this morning to participate in this exciting conversation. We are thrilled and humbled to host this discussion with esteemed panel from Google, Rackspace, and Advance. I want to take a moment to thank Sandeep for taking time out of his busy schedule at Google, Manjusha from Rackspace, and Kevin from Advance. Sandeep, Manjusha, and Kevin, it is a true honor to host you. Thank you on behalf of 120,000 employees of Tech Mahindra for your business and partnership. More importantly, for taking time to join us this morning. It means a lot to us and some of our customers who are very keen to listen to you and learn from you this morning. You know, I have recently refinanced my home without stepping out of the home. It was very difficult to imagine probably about 2 years ago. Digital transformation is no longer a choice to enterprises, as digital native customers are expecting the interactions to be frictionless. And in my mind, quality engineering plays an important role, very important role in delivering frictionless customer experience. We work with 1,000 plus customers and do close to $5 billion business annually across these 1,000 customers. And what we're observing is that the businesses are forced to develop feature-rich applications, leveraging multiple technologies and deploy rapidly across increasing number of platforms to deliver that frictionless experience. So the quality assurance, which used to be a final step before rolling out an application to production, is no longer sufficient. Anjali and the esteemed panel today can unlock the best practices around automated DevOps, continuous testing, leveraging some of the best of AI-driven platforms, and how we can leverage hyper-automation and low-code solutions so that IT can deliver the solutions better, faster, and cheaper to deliver that frictionless customer experience to the end customers. So thank you so much. I'm excited, and I'm going to stay here and probably learn a bit of this also. Anjali, thank you for putting this panel together and also helping us lead the conversation today. Back to you, Ritu.
Thank you, Sampath, for setting up the context. Over to you, Anjali, for initiating the panel discussion, please. So as you all know, Anjali Chhabra Nandwani, she is Vice President and Head Digital Assurance Services Americas from Tech Mahindra.
Hi everyone. So thanks Sampath for setting the stage, and thanks Ritu. Okay, so I'm sure everybody is completely ready to get into the conversation, so I'll not delay it at all. So it is a panel discussion mode. I'll start with some questions. We'll go around the panel and listen their views on each of those interesting aspects. So let me start with one question, which is I'm sure all of us in this DevSecOps and quality engineering space, we know that that whole shift left philosophy that used to be like, everyone 10, 12, 15 years, we have been talking about shift left, shift left, shift left, and early testing, fail fast, and all that. But then, with all these complexities around the hybrid environments coming in, and like QE teams not having enough time to test everything all the time, of late we have been hearing this shift right concept in the industry so much. Everything to do with A/B, canary releases, beat chaos engineering, and things like that. So let me start this question with you, Sandeep. Specifically, being part of one of the hyperscalers, and that who are contributing to this complex hybrid environments. Let me start that question with you, Sandeep. That how do you see the future of quality engineering in the context of shift right specifically?
Oh yeah, thank you. I assume you can hear me. I'm going to draw on my experience for the last 7-8 years in terms of what I've seen in quality engineering, especially around things like mission critical applications, right? Many of our clients have mission critical applications that have become critical for business continuity, right? And I'll give you the example of, I've spent the last 7-8 years in retail, where during the pandemic, pretty much, the brick and mortar business fell under risk, right? And there was a big shift to digital, right? So essentially, digital became a mission critical a channel. Everyone was talking about frictionless checkouts. Everyone was talking about, buy online, pick up in-store, curbside pickup, things like that. And that became a predominant channel, right? The Instacarts and the Uber delivery became a very viable channels, right? Now, think about it, right? What is the cost of downtime for such businesses where they are running mission-critical applications? And we define mission-critical applications as applications that cannot go down, right? Now, in the context of, and pretty much every client of ours, I'm really hard-pressed to think of any client that won't have a mission-critical application, right? So, A/B testing, shift-left testing, were there already. And for those who aren't very familiar with A/B testing, it is the concept of testing two versions of an application, really to determine how the two versions differ from a user experience and user behavior perspective, right? And does version B, which is a newer application, meet the business goals or the acceptance criteria that were determined prior to building of those capabilities, right? So it's basically, you have a hypothesis that the newer version is going to lead to certain business benefits, user experience optimization, and you basically have those two applications running in parallel before you determine that version B of the application meets the hypothesis, right? So it's absolutely critical for mission critical systems that have a user experience element to it, right? Now, A/B testing and shift left testing, in my mind and in my experience of delivering some pretty extensive .com assets for some of my Fortune 50 clients, they go hand in hand. So shift left testing was and continues to be critical in an agile mindset, and agile is becoming more and more of a reality, right? Where you're continuously improving and delivering capabilities on a sprint basis, maybe a 2-week sprint or a 3-week sprint. Shift left's idea was to identify and fix defects early in the cycle, right? But we all know that, we've all been in situations where defects pop up, right? And those defects never showed up in pre-production environments, and that's where shift right or chaos engineering came into play, right? And the whole idea of shift right was to build greater confidence in the system. And shift right is still gaining popularity. It hasn't the fear of shift right continues to be there. And the success of shift right testing is where it is carried out in a highly controlled fashion, right?
Absolutely.
Now, there's a couple of patterns that are emerging, A/B test pattern, rolling update pattern, blue-green deployment pattern, right? Now, I would say that the success of A/B shift left and shift right really determines on how well you are able to adopt the hyperscaler capabilities of being able to carry out zero downtime, instant rollbacks. In case things are not working out, you should be able to roll back without outage. The ability to carry out environment separation and to test live production traffic. And that's where, tools from Google like Spinnaker and Firebase application development, the CI/CD pipelines, cloud build, cloud test, cloud deploy, and the ability to monitor come into play. So, to summarize, I think that chaos engineering is just going to grow in popularity, especially for mission critical applications.
Thanks, Sandeep. And so let me go to you, Manjusha, just for you to share your views around the whole shift right paradigm.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity, first of all, and good morning, good evening, where everybody is, and I appreciate the interest everybody has in this topic, because like Sandeep was talking about, the world is getting digitized very quickly. COVID is accelerating that. And applications and the digitization and all our digital systems are becoming mission critical for the business. So quality, security is going to be very much embedded and at the forefront of everyone's mind going forward. So quality testing is not going anywhere, right? How we do it and how we approach it needs to change though. The systems are getting complex. We talked about that. They're getting mission critical. The original we used to think about testing where you would create an application, develop it, give it to the test team and test it is not going to cut it anymore, right? We can't go fast enough to deliver an application. So the more we bring in the testing in early on to the development team and they focus on the component level and use those concepts is important. But at the same time, how do you go into the production-like environment? How do you react when an issue is found? And how do you build resiliency into that is also going to be equally important. How much you're not going to be able to test everything that's out there. So for that, how do you selectively pick the tests that you want to run? When do you run the testing is also going to be very important. What tests should be run at what point of time? How do you approach the risk when a risk realizes? How do you mitigate that risk? And how do you deploy and then, roll back quickly? So all of that should be embedded into testing going forward and should be very much part of the quality. Yeah, so I agree with Sandeep, the chaos engineering shift right is not going anywhere, but that does not mean you should not be testing early. You should not be looking at the continuous deployment and continuous testing going forward.
Absolutely,
part of the culture.
Yes, absolutely agreed. So Kevin, coming to you on this, again, your views specifically around this whole shift left, shift right paradigm, what, when, how, things like that.
So look, we've been talking shift left, as you said, for 15 or more years. And of course, we've been trying to do end-to-end testing since at least the mid-90s, because we know that has to be done as an integrated thing. Look, I think a better term is actually continuous testing. And my view of continuous testing is you better test as far left as you can in the smallest subsets that you can. Then you better test when it's integrated. Then you better test and automatically scale to each of your environments. And then you better test again in production. And if it's mission critical, it's A/B testing. Of course, in fact, you slowly want to roll people onto the mission critical thing, which means you have absolutely two separate systems. Now, where I think our industry has failed is in the following. As we decided to move to more of a DevOps or Agile modality, we said, well, we can't possibly test everything in the now 1 hour that we have. We used to have 6 weeks to test. Now let's say we have 1 hour. So we're going to try to select the most important ones. And I think that's been a failure. It's been a failure because humans actually can't easily select which ones. And it turns out, even though we only make changes in certain areas of an application, we later find that our users found bugs in some other areas because we impacted other areas that we didn't know. And in fact, if we did all of our testing correctly, our users would never find a bug. Our users are finding bugs in areas we didn't test. They don't find bugs in areas we did test because we tested those. So I think the entire industry has failed, not just us and you, and we all failed our customers by thinking we could get all important testing down to 1 hour. And what we did is we cut out 90% of our testing and said, we'll do what we can in the hour that we've got. And so, that's why, for the last 10 years, and we have had a vision that said we're going to have to use a different kind of technology. For us, it's AI that will go and do the tests that you don't have time to do. It'll figure them out by itself. It'll write it by itself. It'll find the bugs by itself before your users do. And we're going to have to use that because there's just not enough humans to build and maintain the say 10,000 tests it would take to actually test something fully in an hour, right? So that's a little different thing, and certainly we've seen everyone that we've been working with for years now embrace that concept of, okay, I give up. I can't get down to 100 tests that I can maintain and manage in an hour, so I'm going to let a machine pick the other ones and run them and maintain them by itself and do it. So just a different look at it, but we're certainly seeing that grow as part of a continuous testing regime.
Absolutely, Kevin. Thank you. And just before we move on to the next question, Manjusha, we are getting some comments from the participants that they like your voice, they can hear you, but it's little feeble. So just for the next round, because I'm coming to you for my next question actually. This the whole aspect of this agile adoption, DevOps, and DevSecOps, and then all these rapid development, high velocity development, and things like that. 6-7 years back, and then we keep hearing it even now, every now and then, that how does quality engineering fits in this complex world of DevOps, agile, scaled agile, and those type of things, and how integrated QE has to be with development. And then there are industries like healthcare, like some of the critical systems that are highly regulated and compliance driven, that need a very independent validation verification type of view, and they want that what you call a China wall between development and testing and quality engineering team. So, and specifically at Rackspace, I know in the last couple of years, there has been a lot of transformation, a lot of rethinking around the organization structure. So just trying to understand, what is your view around how integrated versus how separate these functions have to be to maintain the, what I call is the sanctity of quality engineering as a function, but still not become like a roadblock to the velocity. So
yeah, great question. I think a lot of the industries, a lot of the people, and a lot of teams struggle with it, right? And they try to find an answer in one or the other. I feel like it shouldn't be one or the other. The first and foremost we need to do is we need to think about quality as a function, not as a task or a thing that a team does. So we need to have a shift and into delivering quality product with agility, accuracy, and repeatable process. That's a demand of time, right? And we need the DevOps practices and DevOps automation that provides that. Continuous testing is absolutely required. We need to look at quality as an integrated function, as a culture. It should not be a sole responsibility of one person, one single team. That happens within, the last stage of the process. It should be embedded in the entire life cycle, right? So we have to think about requirements and design all the way till deployment, delivery, and even how do you react to the defects? How do you roll back? And we talked about all of those, right? So that needs to be embedded. Every single member needs to start thinking about quality going forward, right? So I envision that it becomes an integrated function. The types of testing or the activities of the quality can be picked up by various teams, right? It doesn't have to be one thing that one team does. The teams can be integrated or separate, depending on, again, the complexity, the types of testing. You may have resourcing constraints or, compliance constraints. So for example, if you're doing performance testing, maybe you could have a dedicated team who does that across systems and when you're doing a large deploy or rolling out infrastructure. for PCI or other type of compliance and regulations, maybe you should have those practices where a person who's developing the code is not testing it. So we need to keep an eye on these compliance and regulation requirements. They are there to protect us and help us in the future so that we can reliably go and develop the software, make sure that it follows all the regulations. But the way I think about it is not just testing anymore, it's just quality as a function. And it needs to be embedded throughout the company.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's very interesting. Thanks, Manjusha. Sandeep, let me ask you this about this whole org structure and how these teams should look like. Yeah. So your views on that?
I'm going to lean on my product development experience as well as consulting experience here, right? I think this is a really important question. It's not just about how integrated the teams are, but what will differentiate a consulting company is how will you execute a large program, right? Not just 3-month programs, but transformation programs that you're thinking of. One of the most common pitfalls and that adds risk to engagements is when the teams aren't asking the clients the right questions, right? I'll give you an example, a real-life example. When a team has deep clarity on the non-functional requirements of a program, they are much more likely to be better integrated in their agile delivery. An example of a non-functional requirement that if you don't ask the client, if you don't carry out the initial probing, you won't really build the right structure of those teams that are going to be delivering, that are going to be Scrum teams in the agile process. So an example of a non-functional requirement could be how many concurrent users of a system are expected, what are peak times, what are identity and access management security requirements, what are the different roles of users, what is the impact of downtime, and all of this has a direct impact on the design of the application, the testing methodologies and strategies that you're going to adopt, the security framework that you're going to deploy across the entire infrastructure stack, and at the end of the day, the success of the program. We don't want our partners to fail, right? Now, as I think of the term DevSecOps, right, that term itself answers the question. The goal is to make sure that your teams are asking the clients the right questions as they are building the system. They are ready to take accountability all the way from architects, developers to QE members for taking the right integrated actions from design to development to deployment and at the scale and speed. The whole idea is to build the system and the product that the client wants, right? Now, it's not just important that they ask the right questions, they understand the security and performance characteristics that is desired out of a system. Do the teams adopt the right mindset, the tools? It's people process tooling, right? It's kind of like beaten to death term. Are you using the right set of tooling that will enable you to be well integrated and deliver to the client specifications in terms of the non-functional requirements, right? So, for example, thinking from the perspective of Google, right? Our cloud-native application development gives you capabilities such as build and deploy that enables you to integrate with a CI/CD pipeline, that you're able to kind of integrate with a source code version control system to a CI server like, JFrog pipelines, and then leveraging things like tooling like JFrog X-ray that'll scan for vulnerabilities in the shift left paradigm, that you're scanning for any kind of vulnerabilities around your code and your libraries before you deploy to your Kubernetes cluster, right? Or through your pipeline. So essentially, if I had to round it out, One, identify the non-functional characteristics of the application or the product that you're building. Two, use the right set of tooling offered by and best practices offered by the hyperscaler, right? And three, use the right tools to achieve your desired business outcomes. So I'll leave it at that at this point in time.
Thanks, Sandeep, for that. Coming to you, Kevin, if you want to share something on this topic before we move on to the next question, which is a very interesting question. But yeah, just
okay. I'll keep it short. From the day we all heard DevOps, all of us in the QA quality engineering space said, "Hey, what happened to QA? What did you eliminate us?" And in fact, in the very first instantiations of the term DevOps, QA wasn't there because we were going to shift so far left that developers would do all of the testing. Now, developers have always done unit testing on what they worked on. Nobody's taking that away from them. But if you go to I'm not talking about a Google or a Facebook or an Amazon or whatever, but most companies, if you go to their dev team and say, "Hey, we want to take all testing, integration, security testing, performance testing, and devs, you're going to do that on top of your dev job." You know what they do? They get up and quit. So that's not going to happen. It's a ridiculous request, right? For many, many reasons, including fox watching the hen house. Sure, it works. Well, sure it does, because you're not going to spend your time doing it. Developers like to develop, and quality engineering people like to engineer quality and push that back to developers and say, "Here are the issues that I found," and then decide with the business team what's important, right? So I think it should have always been Dev QA Ops, in which security is part of QA, of course. And I think QA is frankly more important because our applications have become more important, more critical, and more complex.
Absolutely. I love that term Dev QA Ops so much. I know a lot of people raise a lot of questions when in fact I used to use that term sometimes, and yeah, Dev QA Ops, is it? But yeah, I really like that term. It has to be embedded, it has to be part of the entire DevOps paradigm, and absolutely. So now,
Sorry to interrupt you, Anjali. Sorry to interrupt you. Just a quick time check. You have 5 to 7 more minutes to close the panel discussion, please.
Okay, maybe I think I'll take 10 minutes, Ritu, because
okay, yeah.
we have few more questions. But yeah, I'll try to wrap it up so that you can take some audience Q&A, and we have time to wrap up as well. So thanks for the time check. So Kevin, I will come to you with this very interesting question, because I know it is very close to heart, the whole subject of machine learning and AI, and utilizing that to do our rapid deliveries, high quality, high velocity deliveries and things like that. So my question is that we have been hearing this a lot, application of machine learning and artificial intelligence in the area of quality engineering, pipeline, continuous pipeline, delivery pipelines, and things like that. What is real in this thing? Because we are doing a lot of work ourselves as Tech Mahindra Quality Engineering team, where we are utilizing past releases data. We are trying to do trend analysis, anomaly detection, predictive analysis, trying to do better risk-based testing, better coverage analysis, and things like that. But you being an enthusiast in this space and working on a product that will improvise that whole aspect of utilizing machine learning and AI for quality engineering, what are your views? What do you see in near future, in next 2 years, midterm, 5 years, and then probably long term will be estimated?
Look, there are many ways we can utilize machine learning in our field, and you just mentioned 10 of them, right? And you know, if you go out there and search on a bunch of QA tools websites, you know, 10 of them will mention AI, 9 of them don't really have any AI, is the truth, right? AI is a marketing term, and that's fine, right? But there, you have to realize machine learning is all around us, right? Since Facebook facial recognition and you know, Siri and everything else. I mean, we see AI everywhere. We see AI in data analysis today. We see AI in everywhere, right? So how do we want to use it best? And what we decided is that there would be a day when humans are not writing scripts and deciding which scripts to write, writing scripts, and then actually running the test. That, in fact, we would elevate humans to analyze the outcome of AI finding the bugs. And so that's what we have pursued as a company. That's what we're doing with Tech Mahindra for a lot of customers together. That is what's important, because if I can leverage AI to find most of my bugs, I've freed up my teams to now analyze all of the bugs that come back, create better test data, be thoughtful about one build versus another build, what the changes were, what happened, right? That is far more impactful to our industry. We cannot hire enough people to keep throwing people at doing more testing, whether it's manual or automated. So we have to have AI, and I'll summarize this. The AI that we developed and brought to market several years ago is sort of the equivalent of putting 100 more people in QA on a particular project. It's like, but now I have this AI that will go write the equivalent of 100 people of tests and run them all within an hour that I couldn't have possibly done with humans, right? So that's one use. I think it's the best use of AI in our field, and that's what I'm excited about, but there are many other uses that would be interesting. That one is a game changer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin, for that. And Sandeep, coming to you with that before I go to Manjusha on this subject. I'm sure it is very close to everybody's heart, because all of us are like hearing it from our teams, our customers, everybody. AI, utilize machine learning, expedite my deliveries, improve quality. So yeah, what's your view on that, Sandeep?
I think this is a brilliant question, and I encourage folks at Tech Mahindra, especially the client partners and thought leaders, to actually position this to your clients. Why? Because, hey, analytics offers a scientific way of really identifying and pinpointing the highest risk areas of your product, right? It's critical. You can balance your resources determining your test strategies. And quite frankly, the data is there, right? To run your models. Where is the data coming from? Look at things like Google Analytics. You can gather information about the most used features. You have customer care data that, you can talk about the frequent complaints that your customers or your users are talking about. You've got defect tracking tools like Jira, where you can capture what kind of bugs are coming. You've got tools like Google Anthos' Service Mesh, which is integrated with logging and monitoring, right? And it gives you the ability to inject faults. So the data is there. The ability for you to build your AI models is there, right? And quite frankly, I don't believe that the QA industry is doing enough to leverage this opportunity. So I agree with what has been said, but I think that is going to differentiate a great program and engagement of our SI partners, as they position to their clients.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandeep and Manjusha. Over to you for your views on utilizing machine learning and artificial intelligence for quality engineering DevSecOps.
Absolutely. So agree with everything that's been said. We absolutely need to do a little bit more in this space as quality engineers going forward and start. This is the only way we are going to scale further. One thing I want to point out is, like any other field, these AI models and the data are going to be as good as they are built, right? So having that human interaction, understanding what the models are built on top of, how you use them, having the business context and history behind it when you see the results is extremely important. So let's not dismiss those, and let's bring those in as we are building that data, looking at the data and analyzing these models and the results we're getting from it. So I think that's a very crucial step, and that's where we as engineering teams or humans can put our value in analyzing the results and acting on them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Manjusha. So at this point, I have still many questions to ask this panel, but keeping the time in mind and respecting everybody's calendar, I'm just picking up one of the popular demand question, basically, which is very, very, I would say, close to most of our hearts as quality engineers. That of late, this whole term around full stack engineers and SDETs, this whole aspect is coming up, and we always hear that, oh, I don't need manual testers, I need SDETs. I don't need manual testers, I need full stack engineers and things like that. And we appreciate automation is on everybody's mind, and everyone wants to get a fully automated regression bed and continuous testing, zero touch automation, all those things. In fact, I'm blending two questions together. So what is real in that? Because when we go out, try to hire in the market specifically for quality roles, it's not that easy to expect, or even full stack development, right? At times the developer's mindset is not completely tuned for finding issues, edge condition, boundary scenarios, exception flows. Similarly, a QA guy coming with all those mindset may not be completely tuned or ready to do everything in the development world. So where is that fine balance? And I'll start that question with you, Manjusha, considering your role in the engineering group. I'm sure you are always ramping up teams and looking for the best people around. So where is the fine balance? And then we'll go to everyone with their views as well on this topic.
I love this question because I struggle with it. I'm going to be honest, right? I struggle with it. It's very difficult to find that the rock star, or I'm looking for that blue unicorn to go who does everything, right? We're looking for that. You're never going to find it. So we, instead of finding these unique, unicorns, I would say, think about how you distribute this function across, bring quality in, make it a part of the culture instead of having it done by 2 or 3 or 4 people or the teams of people, right? You're never going to be able to do it everything. We talked about a few of those things, right? So I would say my advice to the hiring members or the people who are building the team, or who are digitizing or going forward with this digital transformation, and COVID is not helping, it's going to even accelerate it further, right? Is how do you think about quality going forward? How do you bring it as a part of your culture and the team? How do you use automation to further you in your journey? What I would say is having practices built in, continuous testing, having using the different tools to do DevOps, doing more automation. We talked about data, we talked about AI, including that, but at the same time, the testing or the manual testing or the human factor about how these systems are used, accepting a risk, not getting afraid of finding a defect or having issues in production is something that needs to be, we need to be comfortable with that going forward, and we need to accept it, and we need to have a resiliency built in on how do you going to be reacting when something like that happens. So
absolutely.
So that shift is going to help us going forward.
Yeah, I love that word, resiliency. So that is the key, considering the rapid speed with which we are deploying systems, adding features. I think rather than, as you rightly said, instead of saying that, oh, I cannot find any issues, it has to be zero production defects and all that, how do we build that resiliency? How do we ensure that some issues do not actually cause a major financial issue or a business risk? How do we build that resiliency is very important. So maybe I'll come to you, Kevin, very quickly on this same topic, and I'll add a little spin to that as well, that the whole idea of that zero touch automation, click a button here, things are in production, right? We hear that aspiration so many times, but in complex enterprises, it is happening in certain areas, but yes, it is still not that real that I click a button here, it starts building, it gets tested and it gets into production. So what is real in this whole thing and this full stack and everything?
So it's a little combination of two questions, as you said. First, on the full stack engineer, there are not enough full stack engineers in the world to just do coding, let alone full stack engineers who want to join the QA side of the house, right? So let's get past that. We have to have technology that can be operated by quality engineers, quality people, even manual testers that have very limited coding experience, but enough to operate the technology. Let the technology fill in the rest, and also coordinate with your dev team. But it's a useless conversation to say, where are we going to find more full stack engineers who want to join the quality team? You're not. There aren't enough of them. So let's get past that and leverage our technology and our tools, right? And the technology, the platforms today, ours, I'm sure others, are spectacular, and you need very light coding skills. Okay, that's that. As for the full, hands-off deployment, right? I'll tell you what, we see it in some of our customers. It is spectacular when you've got it working. That is, it's truly hands-off from build all the way to production. There's a bunch of gates. Sometimes there's gates where at least a senior person has to look at what came out and decide, does it go forward? So the gate might just be a go. So there's usually a human gate in there. But other than that, it has all been coded. It can move from QA or dev, QA, staging, pre-production, production. And I see this absolutely happen fully automatically. Our technology will do it, so you can hook it up. It'll put bugs in Jira. It'll clean up the bugs in Jira, tickets in Jira, etc. It'll kick off from any of the CI tools. So yes, people are doing it. I think it's hard to get there, but if you spend the whatever it is 6 months to code all that up and get there, it really relieves team members from a bunch of headaches. But still leave some manual gates in there, I can tell you, because if you don't and something terrible happens and you deploy automatically to production and it's dead, and then it takes you hours to revert, there's a CEO who's going to call you, and you're not going to like what they say. It's usually got a pink slip attached to it. It says leave today, right? So I would say keep some manual gates. Definitely do it. It's spectacular. It's totally worth your effort.
Love your passion around this subject, Kevin. The way you explained, very nice. Sandeep, coming to you with the same topic, and we will actually wrap the panel discussion and go to audience questions, because we also want that to happen. So Sandeep, over to you.
Yeah. So Manjusha mentioned the term blue unicorn, right? You can't find unicorns, let alone blue unicorns, right? Essentially in the past, what I've really done is you can build unicorn teams, right? It's really, like Kevin mentioned, it's really hard to find full stack developers that want to do QE. So one of the things I've done is encourage my teams and actually enforce my teams to actually think behavior-driven development, which means that you're looking about the outcome of the systems that they are building, and then you pair the right set of skills. Essentially QA engineers that have a good understanding of object-oriented design and development, along with tools like, and thinking Google, right? Google CI/CD pipeline tools, and then WebDriver and performance engineering tools. So a good QE engineer is someone who understands the development process, the design process, and they're using the behavior-driven development approach to map the right set of tooling. And developers working very closely with their QE engineers can accomplish, this challenge that we are facing out here. And leverage behavior driven development, acceptance criteria, and then might map the right design and tooling skills from build all the way to deploy. So I'll leave it at that, Anjali, for now. I think between the three speakers, I think we've actually covered the gamut there.
Absolutely. So at this time, thank you for the very energetic conversation around the panel. I am requesting Ritu, and Ritu, considering the time, we might be able to take one or two questions, because even for the audience questions, we'll want to listen the views from all the panelists as far as possible. So let's start with whatever comes, like whatever you are seeing on the top of your list from the audience. Let's get started, and yeah.
Sure, Anjali. Thank you. Thanks, Anjali and panelists. Amazing questions and detailed and insightful answers. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, taking up the question, some of the participants are kind enough to give the questions whom they want to give the names of the panelists whom they want to ask it. So the first question is for Kevin. In the future, can AI completely eliminate the need of manual or exploratory testing?
It's a great question, and I think we should always be careful about completely eliminating. And the reason is this: we are going at many companies from, let's say, a 6-week cycle to a 2-week cycle to a 1-week cycle to a 1-hour cycle. Okay, so generally, if you're going from about 4 weeks to 1 hour, let's say that's a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x productivity improvement in terms of our build cycles. Okay, so I got to compress already 20, 30, 40, 50x right there. Then I have another thing. Then I have the complexity of the application, and these many applications are growing at, call it 100% complexity increase per year. So in fact, what I'm trying to do is take the same team that I had and make them at least 100 times more productive than they were a year ago. How are you going to do that? So you can't do that by eliminating them. They're never going to go away, right? But you can do it by augmenting them. And so when we use AI, and by the way, we use AI around the world today to augment something else. So we need to use AI to augment our teams because they're overloaded and they're not getting all the bugs, not because they're bad people, but nobody's giving them enough budget to hire the 10,000 people you'd need to keep up with this rapid change between DevOps and increase in complexity. So leverage AI to write the majority of those tests, to manage and maintain the majority of those tests, and find the majority of the bugs. And still, your entire team that was assigned will still be available and will still be there and overloaded. Why? Because of the complexity of the application and the rapid speed of the builds continues to compress the time that we have. So nobody's going away. And lastly, there's still some real value in manual testing. Like, there's just nothing like a mobile app where you give it to a human and let them go through it. A machine, as much as we have modeled what humans do, we can miss some things that a human goes, and why is it that shouldn't be in that corner? And a machine can't know it shouldn't be in that corner. That's a kind of a human feeling that says, I've never seen it there before. I don't like that. Did someone mean to do that? That's something that humans uniquely do today and probably will for many, many, many years. So some manual testing is always good. Always, always good. Or crowd testing, always good. Don't eliminate the things we built, augment them with AI.
Absolutely, absolutely love the answer, Kevin. So Sandeep, coming to you on the same question before we go to Manjusha on the same question, and I think, and then we'll probably be at time to get to the wrapping up remarks. So Sandeep, what's your view on this?
I absolutely loved Kevin's response out here, right? Yeah, we are not eliminating humans. We are not eliminating the human race. Systems are built for human interaction, and crowd source testing as well as acceptance testing, A/B testing is all about, the reaction of humans to an application. So that's not going away. However, the interesting thing about AI-based testing, and quite frankly, I can't say enough how I liked Kevin's answer. We have the right data. Logs are being collected by, by hyperscalers all the time. We have automated alerting, rule-based alerting based on certain conditions, trigger off rules that can trigger off, AI-based models to really identify the best course of action. We have the analytics. We have introspection tools that can identify where the bottlenecks in the system are, right? So the conditions are right for AI-based testing. We have the data, we have the tools, we just have to write and train the right models that will get better over time. So quite frankly, agree with Kevin, human element's not going away, but I think the role of AI, because of rapid build to deploy cycles, we are not going to get skills wrapping up dramatically, or the number of resources available to us growing rapidly. So this is a great opportunity, I think. Who knows, next couple of years, in the short term, 2 to 4 years, we'll see growth in that area.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandeep. Manjusha, over to you for the views on this subject.
Yeah, I think a lot has been said on this already, and I completely agree with both Sandeep and Kevin. You cannot replace human experience. You cannot, replace the things that we learn, especially when you're bring in digitization and automation to the non-technical domains, right? That's where the human element and that experience and the business need to have that human touch to the quality cannot go away. So it's extremely important on using AI to get faster and quicker and cover most of the things. How you use it, in which areas you use it, is something that we need to look at. And again, it's going to be as good as the person who's using it and the experiences that person brings in. So let's keep that in mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. So at this point, while I have so much more on the aspects of security, aspect of environments, test data management, there are so many things that are on my mind to discuss with this this panel, and we are really enjoying all the views. And next time I'm going to bring you all for a 2-hour session, because I realized that 1 hour is not enough to get all the learnings from all your experiences. But at this time, I would like to kind of get into a quick wrap up for this conversation. And I'll invite Mohit to just, he has been here listening to all the conversations keenly. So Mohit, over to you for some of the comments and yeah, before we close the session.
Thanks, Anjali, and brilliant panel discussion. And I will try my level best to summarize the points mentioned by Sandeep, Manjusha, and Kevin. What is also important, which we probably missed in the discussion, is that the DORA metrics have become very important. There are not too many people who think about DORA. Now, DORA research was nicely acquired by Google. I'm sure Sandeep knows this. And for the uninitiated, DORA metrics are essentially your deployment frequency, your mean time for change, and mean time to recover, and also change failure rates. These are the 4 metrics that you essentially observe when you're talking about ops. And if you need to better these metrics, you need to have your QE built into the entire value stream. You cannot have just QE built towards the dev side. If you want to better your DORA metrics, you also need to have your QE built during the deployment, during your IAC part of the world, if you are going ahead and doing infrastructure as code using either Kubernetes or Ansible, as was alluded by Sandeep. In fact, the delivery pipelines themselves need to have a QA check. It's not just creation of the delivery pipelines or the value streams. You need to also have QA on top of it. So interesting, and Manjusha actually talked about quality as a function and not just as a task. Sandeep talked about BDD and OAD to ensure quality is built in. Very interesting. OAD is something which probably testers don't understand as much, and this is where a tool like a AppFans comes into picture and ensures there is better coverage. And this is where you actually apply AI. Sandeep talked about chaos engineering and A/B testing, which is very important. This is again something which is to better the DORA metrics again. And Manjusha again mentioned about risk-based testing. Very important point. You cannot go ahead and run all the tests that are possible. So you need to go ahead and significantly reduce it by figuring out what risks are associated with each of the components of your application, and then run only those tests. And which is again something which ties back to what Kevin was talking before. Let AI decide what those risks are. Let AI decide based on those risks, what are those tests that you need to run. So these are something which are very important and very nicely described during this session. Kevin also talked about continuous testing. He talked about AppFans where AI can augment human to provide better coverage, and that is through application of AI. Now, these are very important points and extremely important considering that we went through a horrible time, not so horrible for the tech as we discussed before, the horrible time of COVID. Most of the business was done online. Any service which went down created a huge loss for enterprises. And in case the resilience which Anjali alluded to, if your services are not resilient enough, results into huge losses. And there is a huge coefficient of QE built into such losses. In case you're not testing your entire application throughout the life cycle, throughout the value stream, you obviously you go out of business eventually. Interestingly, when we talk about Google, we talk about hyper automation. We think we obviously have seen Google deploys to production many times in a day, and so does Netflix or any of these great organizations. I was talking to one of the projects within Google. There is a lot of emphasis also on exploratory testing. In fact, 60% of one of the projects that I was talking about did 60% of exploratory testing instead of doing so much of automation, which was an interesting one. And that was entirely based on risk-based testing. So there is a graph which tells you which are those application points where there is a high risk of finding a bug. And we did a lot of exploratory testing there instead of completely being dependent on a machine. So these are the interesting changes which are happening. The QE has now become a function, as Manjusha alluded to. I'm sorry, Manjusha, I mistook your name. And this will continue to change. The techniques have changed, the coverage has changed, but the importance of QE has not changed at all. And thank you so much for coming on this great session. Brilliant points spoken. I'm sure you will take away a lot of learnings from here. And thank you all of you, Manjusha, Sandeep, Kevin, for taking us through your points.
Thank you. Thanks, Mohit. Sampath, just calling you for just your thank you note, and what was your what is your takeaway from the session? And yeah.
No, thank you so much. It's a very engaging conversation, and it's always good to hear from the experts. I'm sure there's so much to sort of digest what we heard from the last 1 hour. I want to take a moment to thank all the participants, and more importantly, the panelists for taking time out of the busy schedule for making this day for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Sampath. Sandeep, coming to you for your closing remarks.
I really thank you for the opportunity to speak to your colleagues and peers out here. I would love to see you folks actually leverage the best practices, in terms of DORA, in terms of the templates that Google. As you know that, Google has 9 services with 1 billion users each. And, those learnings are out there. Those automation tooling is out there for you to use. Please go ahead and position them for your success. QE is an important function. Agile, as Kevin mentioned, the time compression of delivery is going to happen, and how you execute and the people process tooling that you use is going to make a difference. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. And we are very, very proud of our association with Google, which is a 360-degree relationship. We are working with you. We are part of your dev teams. We are part of your QE teams. We go together to the market. So we are so proud of this relationship and this partnership and having that ability to work for Google and work along with you, delivering some of your systems. We are really proud of that. Manjusha, coming to you for this closing remarks from your side.
I really enjoyed the opportunity and, enjoyed the conversation myself. Like you said, maybe next time, longer time, it is a very interesting topic and something that needs to be paid close attention to.
Definitely. And same gratitude from my side as we are very proud of our association with Rackspace team. We work very closely as part of your teams, and we would love to kind of continue this very esteemed partnership and relationship. Manjusha, thank you so much for your time. Kevin, coming to you for your closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you. Great panel, great conversation. Could have been 6 hours. I'll say 2 things. AI and autonomous testing, which we're doing with Tech Mahindra for many clients. It's not only the future. It's here. It's been here for several years. Everyone should get on that bandwagon and try it. It's a game changer. But the second thing I'd say is that I always like to end these panels with is QA is an absolutely important job. It's an important task. It is absolutely critical. We would not have any applications that work without high quality QA, quality engineering, quality control, etc. It is a critical thing. And sometimes you get up and you just look and you say, there's so many scripts and there's so much to maintain, but the job we're doing is critical for these mission critical applications. And so thank you for everybody who's here and watching and who will watch it in the future.
Thank you so much, Kevin. As I said, love your energy and passion around the quality engineering subject, and let's rock the world of QE with all our solutions, all the great things that we can do together with so many of our customers and partners. And again, thank you so much for your partnership, Kevin, and Appvance.ai team. And with that, I'll take this opportunity to close this session. Thank you so much to all the participants, and thank you to all the panelists. Thanks, Sampath. Thank Mohit. Thank you, Mohit, and thanks, Ritu. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes. Have a
Thank you,
good one.
everyone.
Take care.
Yeah,
you.
good to close the session. Thanks for joining.